where we are at in our pro-life movement today. We have endured for nearly 50 years, done something that many in other countries are, to be honest with you, quite envious of, that we haven't gone silent on this issue. We refuse to give up because of what you all do. But I do believe that we are very much in a crossroads because we are looking at an entirely changed landscape, thanks in part to a lot of what your elected officials here in Texas are doing. With the passage and the enactment of the heartbeat law, now waiting for the Supreme Court's decision in the Mississippi case, the Dobbs v. Jackson case, which very well could lead to a Doe v. Bolton reversal and perhaps even a Roe v. Wade reversal, making abortion, quite frankly, unavailable probably in dozens of states once the state legislatures are called back into special session. We've seen incredible victories leading up to this moment in 2022 where we've had hundreds of pro-life laws passed in state houses. We've seen the number of abortion facilities continue to decline. We've seen surgical abortion continue to decline. The polling that we conduct at Students for Life and across the country, other pro-life organizations, other news outlets are conducting show that despite this generation, the 18 to 34-year-old block, which is the largest demographic in our electorate, and that is a very scary thing, let me tell you, on many issues. Despite all of that, the largest portion of our electorate, despite all of the liberal and, quite frankly, insane policy positions they may hold, increasingly do reject the violence of abortion and don't like abortion. Not that they would call themselves pro-life, because we have talked about this a lot in pro-life movement. There's a branding problem. A lot of people don't want to say that they're part of us. But there's something written on their heart that makes them squeamish about supporting abortion rights. But we're definitely in a huge moment. We've had all of these successes. I think Dr. Michael New, a good friend of mine, he's a social science researcher now at Catholic University. He speaks all the time about the changing abortion demographics in our country and the fact that we're seeing 50% fewer abortions take place now than at one of its peaks in 1980. So we have a lot of reason for hope, but we also have a lot of reason to despair and to be concerned. We have, quite frankly, the most pro-abortion president and presidential administration we've ever had in this country, by someone who's an outspoken Catholic and a weekly mass goer, who was received by Pope Francis, who receives the Holy Eucharist every week. It's not that he simply calls himself pro-choice. No. Monday, the confirmation hearings will begin for Ketanji Brown Jackson, who literally clerked for Justice Breyer when he wrote the majority opinion in the 2000 partial birth abortion case, defending the gruesomeness of partial birth abortion, which later in 2007 the Supreme Court finally said, well, we're not telling you can't kill babies in the third trimester, but you can't kill them this way because this procedure is so gruesome and so violent. But she defended that. This is the woman that Joe Biden has nominated to serve on the Supreme Court. She's also worked actively against your interests, signing and working against for Massachusetts laws that restrict freedom of speech in front of abortion facilities. That's extremely concerning, no matter where you fall on the abortion issue. We also know, looking at the abortion industry landscape, the abortion industry, Planned Parenthood, has already enacted their post-Roe plan. We're talking right now about what our post-Roe plan should be. Our pro-life leaders are meeting on a regular basis to debate what our messaging should be. It'll be mine. We're going to win. What our messaging should be, where we should be focused. But they've already gone forward with it. And they've used the COVID epidemic to push that forward. You all have already seen it. I feel like I'm lecturing people who know way more than I do, because you see it every day, every week when you're in front of the abortion facility. They have moved ferociously towards a chemical abortion. You know, the stat that just came out, 2 or 3 weeks ago said now that 50% of all abortions are chemical abortions. It will soon be 70-75%. That is because, quite frankly, you all kick abortion industries every day. They want to get rid of the reason to have standing abortion facilities. Because the standing abortion facilities, freestanding buildings, brick and mortar buildings, can be shut down through your work, through the work of sidewalk advocacy across the country. They want abortions to happen in her bathroom, which, by the way, is way more triggering to her than going and killing her child and paying someone to kill her child in an abortion facility, because literally every morning when she wakes up and goes to the bathroom, goes to brush her teeth, she relives her abortion every single day, and sometimes multiple times. Every time she walks into that bathroom, she walks into the scene of the crime. But they don't care about her. You all know that. But they've moved quickly to enact their post-Roe plan. They're working with governors like Governor Newsom, the state of Illinois, to make these, Democrat strongholds, safe havens, sanctuary cities, sanctuary states for abortion. California is going to be now paying off the medical school loans of doctors who go to school and agree to move to California to kill babies. I mean, that takes a special level of pro-abortionness. I genuinely think a lot of times, and I try to think and subscribe the best intentions to those who advocate for abortion. It helps me not to get angry at them when they're yelling at me or protesting me or trolling me on Facebook, as I thought Paul's dad was doing. He wasn't. But I tried to, prescribe the best intentions to folks. And this guy did, from the conversations that we've had, especially with Abby Johnson and the former abortion facility workers, so many go into this work thinking they may not like abortion, but they're truly help saving a woman from a lifetime of poverty, a lifetime of despair. But that takes a special level for Governor Newsom to pay off the medical school loans of people who will move to a state with a specific job to end life, to kill babies. In Maryland, our team has been lobbying for the past several weeks, going to hearing after hearing. They will pass a law that takes away Maryland has basically no laws on abortion right now. But this will go so far as to guarantee a right to abortion in their constitution and abolish their anti-infanticide laws. So there will be no laws on the books for people who want to murder children up to 28 days after birth. I mean, at least at this point, they're becoming philosophically consistent so we can prove to the world just how evil abortion is. But they're moving quickly, very quickly. And so I think for us, the question is, especially right now in this Midway rally that you're in with 40 Days for Life, is do you hold back? Do you remain comfortable? Do you play it nice? Or do we push forward? Do we push forward with a pace that we've never done before? Do we work harder than we've ever worked before? For this is what I believe is a key moment. And I think our decision tonight, our decision tomorrow, our decision next week, whether or not we get up and go to the abortion facility, whether if we decide to have that conversation with our neighbor or our coworker or our friend, whether or not we decide to put that bumper sticker or window decal in our car or engage in that debate on Facebook or social media, I think those decisions will definitely foretell what will happen with this movement. Will this movement slow down with a hearing, a decision on the Dawes v. Jackson case in June? We may very well see abortions. I mean, the most likely outcome is going to be that the court strikes down Doe v. Bolton, but would uphold Roe versus Wade. Legal analysts believe the decision is going to be good or great for the pro-life movement. Good is striking down Doe, which would basically make second and third trimester abortions illegal in states that choose to make them illegal. Great would be reversing Roe at the same time. And that's obviously why we have high hopes for the high court. But my big fear, and I will tell you this right now, is that we take a victory, maybe a reversal of Doe, but not a reversal of Roe, and we kind of slow it down. Because to be honest, that is exactly what some very smart Democratic pro-abortion strategists have been advocating for a number of years. David Brooks in the New York Times not long ago wrote an op-ed, after he went through a whole paragraph, reconfirming all that he was pro-choice, 100%, and loved abortion, blah, 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 blah. He actually went on to say if Democrats are smart, they would reach an open compromise with the American people on abortion, realizing that the majority of abortions happen in the first trimester, but strike a compromise and agree to ban abortions in the second and third trimester. So it doesn't restrict those first trimester, the majority of abortions, but then Democrats and pro-abortion leaders would look like reasonable people, and they would make us look like extremists and willing to compromise, which we are because it's about ending human life. But essentially what will happen is that the American pro-life movement will be relegated to what's happened in Europe to the pro-life movement. And I think that's very scary. When you look at what's happened, if you get to a point where you have Republican and Democrat candidates both just agreeing that they don't like abortion at 15 weeks, or they don't agree with abortions after 13 weeks, but there's no real difference between the two when it comes to first trimester abortions, where the majority of abortions are occurring, which we know the abortion industry wants all abortions to be chemical and at home, so they don't have to pay for the brick and mortar facilities. That's going to end our movement. And our movement will largely become like Europe's pro-life movement, which is non-existent. I meet the European pro-lifers. They come to the National Pro-Life Summit every year that we host the day after the March for Life. And they are some of the most courageous people I've ever met because they're literally doing it on their own. It's really amazing. They've taken our I Am the Pro-Life Generation signs that you've probably seen in newspaper articles or LifeSite News or Life News articles, and they translate them to all kinds of different languages. And I think it's so awesome because they clearly are not the pro-life generation in Europe, but they are like so amazing they don't care, they're going to declare it anyway. I love that about them. But that's a problem. And they always ask, what do we do? What more can we do? What makes the American pro-life movement so different than what we're experiencing here in Europe? And I wish I had a scholarly answer to give them beyond read de Tocqueville, and we are amazing as Americans. We are stubborn and gritty and refuse to give up. And when people told us it wasn't polite to talk about abortion, we just got louder, and then we wore a pro-life t-shirt the next time we saw that person too, just to fight them. That's the only justification I can give them. And I think that is what the challenge is going to remain for us, is when the Dobbs decision comes down at the end of June, if we get that good decision, which is a reversal of Doe, but not a great decision, a reversal of Roe, are we going to just sit back? Or are we going to do more than we've ever done before? Because I have to warn you, it is definitely not going to be easy. We've been hearing from pro-abortion leaders, Democratic strategists for months now. They want to use a Supreme Court decision, which they believe will be a good decision. They've already been ginning up their base. I get text messages from Planned Parenthood daily. There will be violence, and it will be from the pro-abortion forces. The language that they are using is very scary rhetoric. We will have to be on guard. We will have to be careful ourselves. But they're going to use it to what they want to do, is just propel a Democratic victory in November in the midterm elections. And I know 40 Days for Life is 501c3 friendly. This is Kristan Hawkins, President of Students for Life Action. Congratulations, two speakers tonight speaking. But this is scary because what will happen is if they can get a victory, if they secure a victory would mean Democrats retain the House of Representatives, majority control, and retain the Senate. They have already told us what they're going to do. At the end of February, do you all know about the Women's Reproductive Health Act that almost passed the U.S. Senate? That already passed the House? This bill is more extreme than Roe versus Wade. Not only would it codify Roe versus Wade, abortion in all 9 months for any reason, into law, It would codify Roe and Doe. It would also force every one of us to pay for it. It would also invalidate every state law that has ever been passed and enacted that restricts abortion. And any state that dares to pass the law will have to take their law and submit it to the Department of Justice for the Department of Justice to certify whether or not it could go forward. I mean, it is antithetical to a complete federalist system that we have. But that's how crazy they're willing to go. They openly, in an election year, where they're getting trounced in every single poll. I had to pay $175 to fill out my diesel gas engine the other day. Like, it's unbelievable that they were willing to go on record. They went on record supporting this. And they've already promised that if they retain the Senate, they will pack the Supreme Court. Meaning they will add seats to the Supreme Court, so we will never see a pro-life majority Supreme Court ever again. So what are we going to do? We have to be active now. We have to do more than we've ever done before. And it's not just getting active politically. You should be active politically. And you're not safe in Texas. I have a lot of conversations in Washington, D.C. about how scared we are that Texas will go blue. You are not safe here. You have to work hard. But this isn't just a political stump speech. No, students will have America president's going to speak. It's more than just getting involved in politics, because we know our goal in the movement is not political. This is a human rights battle. Politics is one way we fight to save lives. But we really shouldn't have to do that, right? Our goal is to make abortion unthinkable and unavailable. It's a twofold goal. So what more do we do? I think what we have to do and we have to work on is we have to seek positive peace. You have to seek a positive peace versus a negative peace. Martin Luther King, when he was in the Birmingham jail, he wrote a very famous letter, which I always thought was written to the KKK and racists. But do you all know who he wrote the letter to Birmingham jail to? You can't say it because I said it last night. Anyone know?
He wrote ministers, didn't he?
The white moderate, he called them. He wrote his letter from Birmingham jail when he was there in isolation for several days in the margins of a newspaper that they gave him. And it was written to the white moderate. And his cries to the white moderate was, you prefer a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, rather than a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. I mean, we see this all the time, right? When you try to go to your church or your parish and get more people to join you in front of the abortion facility. Or when you try to get your pastor or priest to, I don't know, be bold and preach a sermon against abortion once a year. And you're told, no, it's too hard. We'll trigger women. We would rather just have them have abortions in silence, sit there in the pew suffering every week, than to actually have to speak out on this issue. Or learn how to speak out on this issue in a compassionate and effective way. So we have to figure out, what does our positive peace look like? It's not going to just be a negative peace, which is, you could argue in a post-Dobbs America, a negative peace will be perhaps the ending of the killing, the stopping of the killing in states like Texas and Mississippi and Arkansas and Georgia, basically everywhere that has good food. And you can say that's a negative peace, though, because California will continue to have commit the most abortions. Citibank announced last week that they're going to pay. The woke CEOs of Citibank think that they're so cool because they're going to pay for their employees to travel and the life of their babies. And then they think that they're doing it, and they pitch it as like it's because they're like so woke. They're really just profit driven. Like, it makes fiscal sense for them, for their female execs, their female employees to continue to have abortions. It is misogyny, by the way. But that is what they're doing. So we could have a negative piece where, the goal, we think very quickly could be 26 states without abortion, or most abortions. But is that a positive piece? Will every woman in Texas know that she doesn't stand alone? Will her family know that there's a place she can go? Will every woman in America know this? And I would submit to you, men and women, the answer is no. At Students for Life, we launched last year our post-Roe plans, which is a campaign for abortion-free cities. Dallas is one of those cities. It's a pretty aggressive plan, and the goal is to reach 3 types of people in the city. Those who are likely to seek an abortion when they get a crisis, they arrive in a crisis pregnancy, young people who are being marketed to by the abortion industry, and those who are in the pews and just quite frankly lazy and haven't joined us yet and need to be with us. And how to reach those 3 types of people. And we're doing it in 4 avenues. In churches, we have church partnership kits. I think we have a couple of churches already in the Dallas area signed on, but not enough. So you can go to abortionfreecities.org and get a kit, sign up. We're also reaching them with computers, changing minds about abortion and reaching young women. So we changed 10,000 minds right here in Dallas this past year of 18 to 34-year-olds about abortion and about Planned Parenthood. We're using computers and phones to connect women directly to our call bank. We've actually hired some of the folks at Human Coalition to answer our phone calls because they have such an incredible phone ministry. And then wherever city she's in, they 3-way call. They provide support right there on the phone to her, and then they 3-way connect her to a pregnancy center and then follow up with her in a HIPAA-compliant way to make sure she actually shows up to the abortion facility, the nonviolent pregnancy resource center. We're also on campuses, that's what we do at Students for Life, 1,300 chapters, 130,000 young people. We're still actively every day trying to start more groups, grow our groups. We serve over 100 groups right here in Texas, and we have numerous staff members because your state is so massive. Thank you very much for that. But then the hardest part of the work is actually in the communities where we're door knocking, not for a political candidate, that comes this summer in the primaries, but we're actually door knocking for the pregnancy resource centers and against the abortion facility. We knock on doors, ask neighbors in neighborhoods that surround an abortion facility, have they ever heard of nonviolent resources? And we have a little door knocker, it's a chart, it shows all the support services their local pregnancy center provides versus the limited services the abortion facility in the neighborhood provides. And I have to tell you, we knocked 105,000 doors in these 20 cities in last year. Nearly 80% of the people we talk to do not know what a pregnancy resource center is. In some of the neighborhoods we knock, you can see the pregnancy resource center from the person's door. This, my friends, is a huge problem. When we think about what our strategy must be for a post-Roe America, yes, it is getting active in politics, even if we hate politics. Even if we don't like the tweets of the politician, it freaking matters. But we have to show her positive peace. We have to be the ones out there in our communities, educating every single person we know about the nonviolent resources that exist. This is significant because until she knows, until they know how much we care, how much we do, they're not going to be willing to join us in the pro-life movement. They're going to fall for the lies and the scare tactics that Planned Parenthood will be tweeting at them and texting them when Roe and Doe fall. Politicians won't stand up at the state legislature and endure the attacks in the abortion industry if they don't feel like they have the facts to back up that the pro-life movement does have her covered, that she doesn't stand alone, that we're standing right beside her. So knowing the resources, promoting the resources, I believe is our number one job. It has to be our number one job. We've launched a website, Students for Life, called standingwithyou.org, where she can put in her zip code. She can start chatting right away with a real human at Heartbeat International. She can call the phone number, which will directly take her to somebody at Human Coalition. But if she doesn't want, she's a millennial or Gen Z and doesn't want to talk to anyone on the phone, which is me, she can put in her zip code and get connected to all the public and private resources. And if we're missing something,